Welcome to another brand new episode of Undisputed Nerds. I am one of your hosts, Zane, but not the one from Apple Music. I'm the other one. As always, I am joined by my fantastic co-host, Drac, and Gent, Gamer.
Yeah, as always, I was sick last week and he wasn't even here.
As 98.9% of the time.
Hello, everyone in Radio Land. Good evening to you. Good evening, Zane. How are you? The artist formerly known as Zane, as apparently you are now going as. Oh no, the artist formerly known as Senpai.
I was, yeah. I'm not too bad. Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Good.
I watched that Netflix to Dumb. Did you guys catch up on that at all?
Wait, what? Netflix or what?
You know, to Dumb, they had like a live event where they announced like a load of TV shows and.
Oh no, I missed that.
Because we present a podcast about nerdy news and entertainment stuff. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? Why don't you tell us some of the stuff that happened there, Senpai?
It was like 3 hours long. All you need to know, you've probably seen it, but there's like The Witcher 2.
Okay.
It's getting a prequel TV show. Stranger Things teaser. You know, kind of
Stranger Things stuff for 2025 because it's never coming out.
Stranger Things in like 5 years' time when they're all 40 years old.
I was going to say the young cast will be dead before that show comes out.
11 is now known as 30.
He hit me with a maths-based joke and I loved it. And Drac, are you doing all right, my darling?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm still suffering from a bad sexual episode I had earlier, but no, I'm kidding. Obviously, that was from Anchorman. And Anchorman, anyone? Okay, no, don't worry about it. Leaving that well alone. Moving on. Wow. I'm glad everyone is absolutely fine. Thanks. Definitely.
I promised you wouldn't talk about that on air.
I deeply regret everything that I just said.
I'm feeling better. Thank you, Zane.
Nobody cares.
You were on my wavelength.
That's how little I mean to this podcast anymore. Nobody just got wailed over whilst the other two just talk about themselves. God damn it!
I was doing like the whole Xavier, finger on temple. You picked it up.
Thank God you said
Thank
temple.
You for reading.
I'm doing the cheeky villain beard twirling trick, not my mustache, just my actual facial hair. I've got to have a niche. Now I just pulled my beard.
Yeah, it is a coincidence that all three of us are bearded up today. It wasn't intentional. I did mean to shave, but then I got very lazy. Anyway,
that's a hell of a 5 o'clock shadow.
It really is. Oh yes. That's what we don't. We do 7 o'clock here. So I think this week we're going to be talking about a lot of different stuff, aren't we? We're going to be mixing things up. We've got tips and bits all over the shop, and I think we're going to start with some comic booky stuff, aren't we, Drac?
Oh, are we? I'm leading.
You're starting
first before. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right then.
It's to branch over that embarrassing sexual thing you had earlier on.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, let's hope I can redeem myself then. Although not in the eyes of my partner. So.
I can't wait for her to hear this. I cannot wait.
She won't listen to this. Hi, Mom. Anyway. Oh wait, hang on. I kind of I'd rather let
just keep going. Just go.
Just keep going. It's out there now.
Comic books. So this week we saw the conclusion of the Kindred Amazing Spider-Man arc. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the character at all. He's been in the comics now, I would say, for a solid sort of like 1.5 years or so as like a build-up villain. Have you guys got any familiarity with him at all, or it?
No, yeah. I don't. I keep thinking about what was the guy who, it was like years and years ago when he was like, it was revealed that Spider-Man was like part of a totem, like his powers were derived from a totem, and there was like a vampire who came and ate all the powers of this totem, and then there was like this weird spider like mentor guy that was with him, and he didn't wear any shoes. Do you remember what that guy's name is? Like, I that's what comes to mind when you say Kindred.
You remember? He doesn't
Annoyingly,
wear shoes.
I know exactly who you're talking about, but his name does escape me. But yeah, he was part of like
an M, I think.
It does begin with an M, and he's part of like a family of like interdimensional vampires who like go around sucking the life out.
Morlun or something, was it?
Morlun.
It was Morlun, yeah.
It was Morlun. That was actually a fantastic arc, I have to say. But
no, sorry, that's what comes to mind when you say Kindred. I apologize.
So Kindred's been a bit messy one. Obviously, spoilers ahead, folks, but I know you wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't aware of potentials already. There was a lead up of it being Harry Osborn, and a kind of reincarnated demonic version of Harry Osborn. At least that was how it was presented in the lead. But there was already an existing Harry Osborn alive, so no one really knew exactly what was going on. And there was a lead up where another corpse of another Harry Osborn was found. And it started to throw lots and lots of spanners in the works. But I think it was actually getting very interesting about where this is going to lead. And I have to personally say, I feel a bit robbed of a good ending to this.
This sounds like the Jackal or something. Is this going to be like the Jackal coming back with his cloning stuff?
You know what? It's not Miles Warren, it's not the Jackal, but it is clones again.
Okay.
And it's just starting to get a bit samey. So it's their way now. This is relevant and isn't going to tie into No Way Home, but there is part of No Way Home that is going to be tied into sort of One More Day storyline where the deal with Mephisto kind of comes into it. And I can't really short story this, but turns out that in return for Norman Osborn's success in business in his early years, he promised the soul of Harry Osborn to Mephisto.
Really?
So that then caused issues when he went to hell, and it looked like he was being like reincarnated as Kindred, but you know, in demon form. But it turns out that I'm even getting confused now. A clone, a version of Harry Osborn cloned his genes in male and female form, and the two kids that were Norman Osborn's from his affair with Gwen Stacy in the arc years and years ago were actually clones that were aged up.
That amazing, fabulous arc that everyone loved.
And honestly, it was such a weird, I felt it was a bit of a slap in the face personally. I don't know how you guys feel about hearing that through me, because it's hard for me to explain it to you because comics.
Why do they keep going back to clones? That's my question. It's the clone conspiracy from the early 90s. They got Ben Reilly out of it, and I love the Scarlet Spider. Right? He's one of my favorite characters ever. They got Kane out of it as well, which is another. They've got some great characters out of it, but that arc was terrible. It was really badly written. And then the recent one that they did, I can't remember what was called. Whether it was Clone Conspiracy in the 90s or was Clone Conspiracy in the 2010s.
Do you mean with Ben Reilly originally? It'd be 90s.
Yeah, with the new well, no, there was a new one because Ben Reilly came back in I can't remember when he came back in the 2010s, and they did another. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was not well written either. And now it sounds like that you've got another one that is just kind of we don't know what we're doing with this, so clones.
Yeah,
it's weird because Nick Spencer's essentially retcon a sort of blemish on Spider-Man lore with the whole Gwen and Norman Osborn thing, but at the same time, he's brought Craven back at some point, and then I think Craven died again. I haven't been reading it greatly because
his son is the current Craven.
Yeah, it's just
weird.
It's such a weird run on it as well. I think I read the Remainer issue 50 and 50.1R, but yeah, it's a real weird comic book run. But he's doing Substack, so
yeah, sure sounds to me like Sony have got their hands on the comics as well now with this kind of terrible story writing.
But don't want to stay on it too long. I just felt it was a bit of a poor ending to a build up of quite a strong villain, I think, initially. And much as it gets samey, the whole Osborn line does tend to be they have very strong storylines. So like you said, Zane, it sounds like it's just a bit of a retcon of Norman and Gwen's like relationship, and issues with Harry. Like the current alive Harry is a clone who's now dead again. So there is currently, I believe, no alive Harry Osborn in the Marvel Comics universe.
No alive.
Really, really bizarre. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it goes through there. But Mephisto also makes a comment about how he gets involved in Spider-Man's life because of his potential. You never know if Mephisto's lying, but it's implied that either Peter or his daughter will eventually be the downfall of Mephisto. Like,
really?
Long way down the line, right when Mephisto has like conquered Earth or something along those lines.
That's interesting.
He kind of has this conversation with Doctor Strange where you don't quite know what the truth is, which is probably intentional, but there's an implication that something happens there. So that was good.
I would love to see a good extended run with like Spider-Woman or Spider-Girl. I think she was like May Parker's Spider-Girl, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to see a good run with her. Like, that was great. I remember seeing her in Earth X when she's got the Venom symbiote, and it's just like the visual of that always struck me as like, oh, that's amazing. And I would love to see her like have her own arc. Anyway, what else has been happening this week, Drag?
Last one for me is just the start from the finale of Spider-Man to the start of the Inferno arc in the X-Men series. Don't know too many details about this myself. Inferno historically has been heavily linked to Madeline Pryor, and there has been some reluctance due to sort of not really having a proper law established for resurrecting clones again yet. Clones again. And, like kind of like twists on mutants. So that's why Madeline Pryor hasn't been brought back to life like all the other mutants. Her role in this, if she has one, is to be determined. But the main thing that's cropped up so far is that obviously Moira McTaggart is alive and established to be a mutant, a reincarnating mutant. And she's kind of the secret to the whole success of Krakoa one way or another. But she does not want Destiny, as in Mystique's wife, to be reincarnated because of her abilities as a precog and a prior relationship they had in one of Moira's last lives. Anyway, long story short, on there, like there's a whole established thing there about Orcus and this human alliance against mutants, and there's that big rivalry which I'm still very keen to see how it pans out. But the issue practically ends where Magneto and Charles secretly try and destroy all of Destiny's DNA and her mental records so that she can never be resurrected. But then the last 2 pages of the first issue is the fact that Mystique has already had Destiny resurrected, and she votes for her to be on the Quiet Council, which is like the government of Krakoa. And she kind of takes this seat next to Professor X and Magneto with 2 very interesting looks on their faces. So I'm very excited to see where this one goes. How about you, gents? Any thoughts on?
Is that the interesting look?
That's on Magneto's face, actually. Yeah.
Not again, Charles. What are my thoughts on that? I'm trying to remember back to Powers of X and House of X to think about the Moira McTaggart reincarnation stuff that was in that, and what was the horrible point with. I remember there being some stuff with Destiny in that, but it never really hit home that it was such a big deal about it. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed both of those arcs. I'm excited. I think we talked about this previously on one of the prior podcasts that we've done, but the X-Men are in a really interesting place right now. And the one concern I do have with them is that they are incredibly OP at the moment. And so how do you rebalance everything to make sure that, like, because as cool as mutants are, it won't be a case of mutants will take over everything and be the new dominant species, because then it'll disrupt every other book that Marvel have. So how do you reestablish them? Do they go like an Inhumans route, and then Krakoa goes on to like the moon or something like that? I don't, or out off Earth. Mutant kind goes, maybe dominates. I was thinking about this. Maybe if the mutant kind take over the Shi'ar Empire, because they have that link to it, and then they're off in their own universe, and that you don't have to worry about what implications it will have with, Earth.
Didn't they terraform Mars as well, if I remember right?
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, they did. Yes, you're right. So there you go. That's probably what they're establishing for. They're probably going to put them on Mars.
Yeah, they're already there with the Arakoan mutants. So a whole new race of mutants from a different dimension, kind of. Very warrior-like race of mutants. So that.
I think it looks like they're establishing mutant kind as its separate entity from Earth and the heroes of Earth. It does feel that way very much, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's, we've always, I mean, a lot of people, sorry, not just we, but a lot of people have said that the X-Men have enough of a roster that they could literally have their own Marvel universe kind of thing. And Fox tried to do it. So it is possible, Stop touching your mic tracks, making buzzing noises.
Apologies.
Driving me crazy as I'm trying to talk. God. But yeah, it's no, it's really good. What are your thoughts, Zane? I almost called you senpai again. I'm like, no, can't do that.
You can. Yeah, I'm excited to see where they go with it. I know Hickman's doing a run exclusively on Marvel Unlimited, which I haven't heard anyone read yet. So it's kind of sad considering he built this whole foundation of where we are with the X-Men, is the powers of X, House of X, Swords of X, Excalibur, and everything else. But yeah, it's kind of sad that there's this series on exclusively to Marvel Unlimited that no one's really read yet. So I'm excited to see what his last chapter will be. I'm excited to see where they go with just the X-Men title, to opposed to the branching off ones, because I know there's the Trial of Magneto. I think that might have just finished. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go with it.
For sure, yeah. We're only about 3 or so issues into the Trial of Magneto, I think, and there's already been some big twists there. And it's I think timeline-wise, there might starting to be some writing crossovers, because they're not really saying like where one arc starts and finishes. But there's, to me, an implication that Magneto's being controlled somehow. Scarlet Witch has actually turned up alive again, seemingly, a week or two ago. And it appears that Hope is involved in some description, as in Hope Summers.
Yeah.
So, but she seems to have some kind of role or agenda to do with Wanda's murder. So it'd be interesting to see how that arises.
You said agenda in an amazing way. Then agenda.
Thanks.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
I look forward to seeing what Hope's agenda is.
I will try to enunciate.
No kidding. Enunciated. I honestly, Richard E. Grant would be happy. He'd be ecstatic right now.
Glorious purpose.
I'm not sure where you were on the scale, Drac, but you were definitely on there.
You were definitely on there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, well, I'll be excited to see some X-Men stuff. I'll be excited to read that when I do get round to it, because I'm such a Luddite and I only read books instead of online, like these two futurists. Honestly,
trade.
Yeah, no
kidding.
Tony
Stark, and you're the D-man.
Trade.
It's like the smell. I like the smell of a book when you open it and it's all new and fresh. Right. So anyway. Moving on to the entertainment news for this week, darlings, which I'm going to furnish you with. We'll keep it short and sweet. So we'll start with some DC news. So October 16th, we have the second ever DC Fandom event coming up. There was an interview with Variety recently with the star of The Batman, Robert Pattinson. Pattinson. And he was saying that basically he was saying that he's done a weird tidbit thing with Zoe Kravitz. His exact quote were, "We did some stuff for the event. It was fun. It's a fun little thing. And there are lots of surprises for fandom." So it doesn't really give anything away there. The speculation is that we're going to get a second Batman trailer, but from the sounds of the fact that he's done something with Zoe Kravitz, it sounds like we might also be getting some extra doodah and bits that they will present, because I think the Batman was one of the big standouts from last year's fandom. Thoughts on that, guys? Speculation on what we might see. Are you excited for fandom?
Drax, I'll let you go first.
Thank you. I don't know. I will hold fire. I don't remember being particularly blown away by the fandom last year, but that doesn't mean that I won't be this year. And at the end of the day, you know, there is a limited amount of, I think, what's the word? Charisma or something, or hype, like hype that can be associated with like an online event. And I think it's hard to kind of get the word out there. So yeah, I couldn't find the word then for hype.
You definitely have a distinct lack of charisma, that's for sure.
Wow.
Thanks very much. So yeah, no, I would be looking forward to see a trailer. I'd play that right off the bat as soon as I saw it, but I can't really think of anything that I'm particularly looking forward to. Like, I am just a huge Flash fan, but I just really want to see and hope that the Reverse Flash is in that movie, and I would like to see the casting, and I would like to see the Black Adam proper trailer, and then that's me really. Like, I will enjoy the Batman and I will watch it, but it's not at the top of that list for me.
Do you mind if I just say something very quickly, Zane?
Yeah.
The only way that we're going to get a Reverse Flash is if Ezra Miller's run becomes even more stupid and he starts going backwards. Anyway, on to you, Zane.
What a tee up. Seamless segue. So, yeah, in terms of my thoughts on, I'm looking forward to it. I enjoyed last year's. I know there wasn't a lot of content that was shown. Like, there was a Flash animation of Black Adam. Okay, cool. I'll take that. But yeah, I know they finished wrapping the movie for that recently. So hopefully a teaser trailer, physical teaser trailer of sorts. I guess more sort of looks and announcements on their video games as well. I'm really looking forward to Gotham Knights. So I'm hoping like they'll actually give us a new release window on that. And I think there'll probably be some sort of teaser trailer for Flashpoint as well, because I imagine that's probably finished wrapping soon.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I'm with you, Zane. I'm excited for it. I'm super excited to see the Batman trailer, because there will be a second trailer of that. I'm interested to see. I wonder if we're going to get a Keaton. We'll get a little glimpse of Keaton suited up, possibly, because that, as you said, that is obviously finished filming. We'll probably get an Aquaman 2 trailer, I would guess, as well.
Shazam 2.
Shazam 2 as well, probably. Yeah, there are a lot of things that DC have got in the works. Whether or not they'll be good, I don't know. Let's hope that it will continue. Well, let's hope it will continue like it did with the Suicide Squad. Probably, as far as like things I'm excited for, the least, Flash is probably down there, and that's just a personal thing. Also, I mean, as much as I am excited to see Keaton suited up, we've established I'm not a fan of Ezra Miller, so personally speaking, it's not super hyped for me. Computer game wise, 100% with you, Zane. Gotham Knights is looking great. I am hoping that we will see some in-game gameplay footage of the Suicide Squad game.
Yes.
That I really want to see, because that is Rocksteady, and I love Rocksteady. That's my sexually embarrassing moment for the podcast track. There you go. But yeah, it's looking good. I'm excited for fandom. I'm excited, and you know, anything the Batman, it revs my gears, guys. Oh, I love it.
Plus, I guess we're going to get to see more of these sort of virtual events, because did I hear somewhere recently like someone else has set up their own, like comic book wise? I think Marvel obviously do theirs with Disney, don't they? The Expo.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's just well, obviously Netflix have done their own, like I said earlier this week. So it's going to leave Comic-Con with barely anything.
I think Comic-Con is a thing of the past. I think it's going to become a cosplay event instead of a comic event. Personally, I just can't see it. I can't see it continuing on unless they have some kind of weird exclusive deals in the future, but I just can't see it happening.
I mean, you've got a lot of celeb power, like drawing people there at these cons, and so you'd like to think that whatever the name of the arena is in San Diego, where they host it, want to push that as much as possible. And California's got a fairly low amount of cases on the overall, so fingers crossed that'll come back. But yeah, you could be right. I think they're Mr. GG.
Quite possibly. Anyway, moving on from DC. So there has been an announcement. Well, not an announcement. Sorry, there's been an interview with the star of the film Aladdin, Mina Massoud. There are some heavy rumors that he will be, or he is being lined up to be Ezra Miller in the live-action version of Rebels, the yet unannounced project. And he was interviewed by Screen Rant, and he was asked if there was something to all these rumors, and his exact quote was, "Yeah, just manifesting, trying different things. There's not much more I can say about it, but I've heard murmurings that this role was coming up, and this is becoming a real thing. So I just kind of wanted to throw my name in the ring, and just part of manifesting what you want." So I don't know whether that sounds like he's actually been cast or whether he's angling for it, like right now. But I mean, as far as Drac, I don't know how much of a Star Wars fan you are in terms of kind of Rebels and the animated side of things. Me and Zane are quite heavy fans of those shows. So I will start with you, Zane, on this one. Thoughts on not only a live action version, but an adult version of Ezra Bridger coming into the. I did, yeah. Coming into the live Star Wars universe.
Yeah, really exciting. I really like Ezra Bridger. I think
Thank you.
Yeah, really fantastic character, especially with his connections to Living Force and things of that nature. And he had like that real character journey in Rebels. So it'd be really interesting to see what happens after that. Because spoilers, last time we saw him, he like jettisoned with some space whales, at light speed. So it'd be really interesting to see what happened at the other side of that. Of course, we got to see Ahsoka, thank you, in The Mandalorian. And I think there's rumors that Sabine may be in The Mandalorian at some point as well.
Sabine Wren, yes. Yeah. I may have messed up the Miller, but you went with everything else, so that's good. Yes. Well, the interesting thing is Ahsoka, there was her and Ezra had a very interesting relationship in Rebels, because obviously Kanan Jarrus was Ezra's mentor, Ezra's Jedi Knight. But then I guess Ahsoka was responsible for kind of his next level in terms of kind of understanding and stuff. And then there's that amazing fight that she has with Darth Vader in the pyramid, when it's like the Sith temple, when it's like closing on them, and she like saves Ezra at that point, because there's no way Ezra was ever going to go against Darth Vader. What are you talking about? So yeah, I am super hyped. Drac, as a somewhat outsider to the Star Wars universe, what are your thoughts on this? Are you excited to see live action versions of the animated characters coming to life now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of taken me a while as a professional nerd to kind of get more wrapped up into Star Wars. And, I don't have the same nostalgia feeling towards the original films, but a lot of my love comes from the more recent things. So honestly, like, I really like reading about lore, so I keep like a broad knowledge of things and races and stuff like at all times. But it was really when The Mandalorian came in that I started to get really involved. So that was just such an amazing couple of seasons they've done at that so far, and I can't wait for the third one. And obviously the Book of Boba Fett, which is going to be like, I think the 31st of December or the 24th, or it's like the last few days of December.
I believe so, yes.
So that was all wicked. I loved seeing Ahsoka Tano in live action. But for me as well, like having recently just watched Visions on Disney Plus, like this past week, I really loved basically all of those episodes. There were one or two that I liked less, but the first episode with the kind of Sith but not Sith samurai Ronin was absolutely fantastic, and I was like, this is great. And I think I recognized a lot of the animation from a couple of things from a few of the animes that I watch as well. Like Kill la Kill. I think there was some people who did the animation for that was probably responsible for the one with the Sith brother and sister. That looks very similar.
It's Studio Trigger is their forte.
Yeah, like I could see. I haven't even watched Kill la Kill to the end, but I was like, I know this animation, like it's so distinct, which is huge credit to them as well. And I really liked the one with the Padawan and the knight as well. And they kind of run into the old Sith guy with the kind of like dual sabers. I really liked that. So I put loads of value in the animation. I can't wait to see where they go for it. I'm not as familiar with the characters from Rebels, but I've kind of YouTubed a lot of the key fights because I do really enjoy watching that animation. You know, Ahsoka versus Darth Maul in some kind of like hangar somewhere. I really enjoyed watching.
Oh, in Clone Wars.
Yes,
yeah. I think that was the end of it. That was the end of Clone Wars. That was the last episode. That's actually. So they got in Ray Park. They actually got Ray Park in to do all the stop motion animation on that fight. So it is actually him. Mocapping, thank you. Stop motion. Yeah, it is actually him. Speaking of anime, is now an appropriate time to drop in a little plug, Zane, for another show that you host.
Absolutely, yes. So, funny enough, this week we will be talking about Star Wars Visions on Undisputed Anime. So make sure to like and subscribe over there just in case. But it's going to be a great episode. Me and Mr. Susu Day will jump in and no doubt boast how we saw this come in a year ago. So.
I will say this about plug aside, go and listen to it, guys. It's a great podcast. If you're into anime, I will say this about I would like them to move away from this time period in Star Wars now. As much as I do love, and I don't get me wrong, I absolutely love The Mandalorian. I'm very excited to see the live action version of the Rebels characters and the Clone Wars characters. All for it. Happy to have it. That being said, there is, speaking about lore, Drac, there is such an unbelievably rich history of lore in Star Wars that has not been brought to television or film yet, which would be, I almost swore, which would be so prime to do now. Like the origin of the Rule of Two for the Sith with Darth Bane is an incredible story that they need to do something with. The Knights of the Old Republic, that whole thing with Darth Revan and everything back then is amazing, and you don't have to worry about stepping on the toes of any existing canon because it's 1,000 years before Episode 1. You know, there's so much stuff that they need to do with that. But I think that what's his name, Mina Masood is excellent casting if they do go with it. I think he'd make a great Ezra Bridger. And you know, they've also I don't know whether I told you this or not, Zane, but they've actually announced that Lars Mikkelsen, who voiced Grand Admiral Thrawn in the Rebels TV show, is going to be Grand Admiral Thrawn in the live action version. He is going to be him, which I was like, oh, that is perfect. Like, that's so good.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's great news.
It is great news. So yeah, he is definitely going to be it looks like. So yeah, excited for the future of Star Wars television. But I hope they do expand out and do a lot more, because I know they're doing which show is it that they're doing, where they're doing like an older one, aren't they? They've announced like an old, I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, I know it's the guy from Rogue they're doing a show for that recently wrapped, but I don't think it's called Rogue.
No, I don't know what it's called. Okay. Anyway, excited for Star Wars. So moving on, we'll go back to the old Marvel universe for a bit. So obviously, we're going to be talking about What If later on. One of the big characters that was in What If this week was Black Widow. And the actress that we all know and somewhat love, who brought Black Widow to the screen, Scarlett Johansson. She obviously, there was a little bit of controversy when she left after Endgame, wasn't there, guys? And I believe there was some form of dispute regarding something to do with pay and the Black Widow movie, and something about millionaires suing billionaires and all this other kind of stuff. Well, you'll be happy to hear, everyone, that everyone's richer and that Scarlett Johansson has settled, according to Deadline, in the details that have not been disclosed. Scarlett Johansson has settled her lawsuit with Disney, and it is done and dusted. In her statement, Johansson said, "I am happy to have resolved our differences with Disney. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we've done together over the years, and I have greatly enjoyed my creative relationship with the team. I look forward to continuing our collaboration in years to come." So it looks like where she was once out in the cold because she wanted more money, she's now back into the fold. Thoughts? Drac, start with you.
Come back into my arms. That was me doing the Mickey Mouse voice.
Wow, that was weird. Wow, that was weird.
That was part of my episode this morning.
Was it? Okay, good to know. Ho-ho!
I'm not going to do Dawn right now because that would be legitimately awful. There was a lot of role play involved. I don't want to talk about it.
Feels really good, Drac.
Can anyone do a goofy? Can anyone do a good goofy?
Look at Zane.
I have no idea what is going on right now. Like, I have no idea.
Let's just say that Drac really loves Mickey Mouse, if you know what I mean. Anyway, moving on.
I just think there can't help but be a disconnect with these things, can't you? Because it's just, as you said, it's very rich people arguing with other rich people about rich people things, and there has to. I'm just trying to understand the line between professional courtesy and wanting the money that you feel that you were owed. And I think her argument, from what I read, was it didn't get its full box office because it was being promoted on Disney Plus, so that Disney could help launch Disney Plus as a streaming service. And I can't entirely disagree with that, but I think they had bigger things on there beforehand. Like Mandalorian really is where Disney Plus really started to shine. And I do know that this is the first big Marvel movie, new one anyway, that they could put on there. But with everything else that's going on, I really don't think, especially after like Suicide Squad takings and everything as well, that it had that much of an impact, So
apologies to jump in there, Drac. So just to give you the details. So I'll read this. This is exactly what the lawsuit was filed for. So it was filed in July. It claimed that Disney has chosen to sacrifice the full box office potential of her summer tentpole movie, Marvel Studios' Black Widow, in order to boost the subscriber numbers for their burgeoning Disney Plus streaming service. As a result, her guarantee of an exclusive theatrical release was violated, and she ended up losing out on a significant chunk of money. So yeah, pretty much bank for bank what you said there, except it was to do with boosting the subscriber numbers rather than launching Disney Plus, because obviously it had been out for a year and a half. But yeah, it's rich people getting richer, I'm kind of like,
yeah.
Zane,
I don't really have a side to be on, but yeah, what do you think, Zane?
I think power to her to an extent. Like, if you had been cheated out of, this is. You have to remember as well, like Black Widow has been there almost from day dot, like almost like a good 10 years. And this is like her first solo movie. It's almost like the curtain call as well, because after this, there's essentially no more Black Widow that we know of, really. But it was kind of like the curtain call, and for it to kind of go out on a whim on a streaming service is kind of, a little bit of a shot in the foot, I would say.
I think two things I would say to that. So just to give you some contrast of the figures for this. So To date, Black Widow has grossed over $378.8 million worldwide. It's said to have earned over $125 million through the Disney Plus Premier Access. So it's quite a respectable haul on its $200 million production budget, but it's a far cry from what the Kate Shortland directed film could have potentially earned. For comparison's sake, from a theatrical run, Universal's F9 grossed $716.6 million globally, opening domestically just 2 weeks before Black Widow. So, 378 million versus 716 million. And she's saying that because it was launched on Disney Plus, it basically choked off the theatrical release and dropped her earnings. So, it's hard to argue with those numbers, to be perfectly honest with you.
But did F9 have a
streaming?
No, it didn't. It was exclusive.
It was purely theatrical. Exactly. Yeah, which is the point. So yeah. Anyway, I mean, the good news is about this. You say that you see, this is where we get controversial with this, Zane, because you say that she's done. I don't think she's done. I don't think Black Widow's done at all.
I wouldn't think she was done as an act. I wouldn't think she was done with the role itself. But
I think
by story standards, shall we say?
I really wouldn't be surprised if so. Here's my thinking of how this is going to go. If Phase 4 does not go according to what Marvel Studios are predicting with their takes and revenue and whatnot, they will look at it and they'll go, "Oh, it's because we lost our three big stars: Scarlett Johansson, Chris Evans, and Robert Downey Jr." And then they will make every move that they can to get them back. And they've already established that there are a multitude of different realities of which they can do that. So, they've opened the door basically for any or all three of them to return to those roles in one form or another. I can see them potentially convincing Robert Downey Jr. to come back and do like the Demon in a Bottle story arc, with a alternate reality Tony Stark. So, there's so many things that they can do with it. Anyway, regardless, Scarlett Johansson is back with Disney. She's going to be in Disney's Tower of Terror, they've announced. So that's happening. And, I'm not disappointed by it. No. Again, it's hard for me to care about money when it comes to these, world famous people and huge corporations. But I'm glad that Johansson is back in the fold because I personally speaking, I think her Black Widow has been excellent. So, I'm more than happy with that. So again, sticking with Marvel, we got some news, a little hint, a little preview of what Jamila Jamil might appear as or might look like in the upcoming She-Hulk film. So she's going to be playing.
Sorry, Mickey, is that you?
So she's going to be playing Titania. Is that how you say it, Drac? I can't remember.
I think so. Or Titania. I've only ever read Titania. The word.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to say. Thank you, Zane. For those of us, what? Anyway, for those of us watching on the live stream right now, Zane has brought up a picture of what it looks like. I mean, it's just a head really with some crazy colored hair. Pretty much comic accurate. The thing I wanted to ask you guys, and the reason why I've brought up the story, apart from the fact that it's obviously kind of hot news, hot previews. She-Hulk. Can you name me a famous villain from She-Hulk?
Not really, not off the top of my head.
Exactly. I think I know of Titania. I think I've read she's normally like a C-list villain, isn't she? She's not really like a huge. Yeah, that's not the best image of her, but I mean, I can't think of any arcs that she's prominently featured in, where it's like, that. I will say this now, Zane. I have not screened that Twitter feed, so just be careful when you scroll. But yeah. My thoughts are I was quite surprised that they didn't use a Hulk villain in this instead of someone like Titania, TT Tutar, Tittity Toos. I was thinking, why not use the leader or someone like that? You know, it's an established Hulk villain that they haven't really used, and he kind of got a little preview of maybe existing in the Marvel universe because of that Incredible Hulk movie with Ed Norton. So I was just really curious as to your guys' thoughts on if this is an exciting enough villain for us for She-Hulk, really.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in saying that off the top of my head, I mean, for me, She-Hulk has never been a series that I have avidly read. But historically, what I've seen has been, Hulk villains in the She-Hulk series. Nothing has been developed for her. With regards to Tippity Day, Titania, she is a Hulk villain who is married to the Absorbing Man, as in Crusher Creel, and they tend to come in a pair because she's never been a main arc villain by herself, but she has had some good like character development historically. There was a Villains for Hire, I think, kind of story arc with the hood and everything, where I think she was trying to go straight, and then Parker Robbins kind of pulls her back in, or this kind of stuff. She's currently a member of Gamma Flight.
Really?
Which is with like Leonard Sampson and her husband again, and Puck, as in small Canadian bouncy boy, with a similar hairline to myself. So yeah, just not really like a really strong like leading villain, but we don't know what role she plays, or the extent of it. We don't know how much the Abomination is going to be in it. Maybe even they'll shove another villain in there. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true.
We just don't know. We just don't know.
Anyway, interesting to sights to see. I love Jamila Jamil personally, but there you go. Zane, your thoughts on this actual series on She-Hulk itself? Are you excited for it?
Yeah, I am a little bit. To be fair, I really like Jennifer Walters' character. I like some of the older sort of comics where she was kind of this like badass, and I'm always a fan of law dramas as well. So I love how Civil War 2 opens as a court drama, like almost like that court drama sort of vibe. Yes. The Good Wife. I love those sort of things. So I am excited, and I like to see where they'll go with it. Obviously, we know Bruce Banner's going to be in it. And it'd be really interesting to see and explore that character journey, really. So
Tatiana Maslany's an excellent choice, I think, speaking personally, depending on what they do with her as far as like sizing her up for She-Hulk and stuff. But she's a great actress. So, and then with Jamila Jamil in it as well, I'm very excited. I'm excited to see She-Hulk. It's going to be good.
She-Hulk's got talent.
Precisely, doesn't she just? Anyway, moving on. The last bit of news that we're going to talk about today. I mean, you guys are going to be excited for this. It is what it is. So obviously, my most anticipated movie of the year is finally upon us. Everyone's excited to see it. The whole world is buzzing. Serious Oscar contention, I've heard, is in the works. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. It had its preview on Thursday night, and the grossings have been revealed from that. The Sony Pictures sequel grossed 11.6 million in one day after screening from 4 p.m. local time in 3,700 locations. That gives it the second biggest debut of the pandemic era, only behind Black Widow.
Wow,
and it puts it on track for a 67 to 72 million 3-day opening in the US, which is huge. To be perfectly honest with you, during the pandemic, that is massive. The sequel. So this is the interesting part that I saw, where I was like, of course it did. This is reported off of comicbookmovie.com, by the way. Thank you very much for the report. The sequel to the original Venom, which took in 850 million, that was the original worldwide grossing of Venom. The sequel did initially receive a more positive reception than its predecessor, but it has since slipped down to rotten status on Rotten Tomatoes. So it is another classic example of Sony making a movie that makes money but is awful, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure that that's going to be very subjective to the people that we have in the chat right now. Looking at you, Drac. But yes, thoughts on Venom Let There Be Carnage being what seems to be an incredible commercial success already, and the fact that symbiotes sell. Drac, thoughts?
I mean, you know, I've talked about my feelings in depth in the past, but you know, I'm happy to say that the first film wasn't the best thing that was ever made. I just enjoyed it, and I think it'll probably be much of the same for this one. And I think there's a lot of Marvel cling to it right now. But yeah, I think you've got a great point about Sony. They're not quite DC in mishandling their properties, but they make visually impressive movies with less substance, in my opinion.
They know how to cut a good trailer.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, to be honest with you, I've got a weirdly soft spot in my heart for Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 as well, with Andrew Garfield. Though, like, I think out of all three suits as well, I know we're not touching on it directly, but I think that's my favorite suit. I really like it.
Which one? Because he wore two.
Well, honestly, both of them. But I'm just trying to make that definition between the sort of like the hardline Tobey Maguire, very pronounced like stylings, and then a very more tech-based, smooth Tom Holland.
Yeah.
And then I just find like the most comic book accurate and visually appealing to me Spider-Man suit is the Andrew Garfield suit, but especially the second one.
Okay, because the second one was pretty much the Tobey Maguire one, but just with some amendments to it to make it look less riveted, I guess, on the front. Like I thought you were talking about his sneaker looks, where he's got those weird kind of shoes.
No, but I think this is going to go back into the Riot versus Carnage argument again, where we probably see things quite differently. And I still think that Carnage is going to show its difference a little bit more, like when we actually see that film, like especially when the mobility and the movement comes out, and you see things a bit more fluent. I think there'll be a more pronounced difference. But again, looking forward to this movie very much, and I've just figured out that I'm off that morning, so I'm going to have to book my ticket for next Friday. Thank you very much.
You always book morning tickets. You're the worst. You need to get an office job, Jared. That's all I'm going to say, so that you can start watching films with me in the evening. Zane, your thoughts on Venom? Let There Be Rubbish. I mean, Let There Be Carnage.
I am really surprised that it's outdone Shang-Chi already. That is really surprising, more than anything to me. But then I guess, like, for any other person, it's got Tom Hardy. And it's just kind of like the pulling power of Tom Hardy is obviously enough to...
And Woody Harrelson as well. Woody Harrelson's no slouch, man. I will say that.
Yeah, that's true.
He really is.
I also think that Venom is very recognized as well, like
100%. But I'm just thinking, like, people like my parents will more likely recognize Tom Hardy from Peaky Blinders and Bronson and such, and they're more likely to buy this DVD or, you know, go to see this in cinema to an extent. But yeah,
I agree with you. Tom Hardy is a bankable figure. You know, you think about not just this, but he was in Dunkirk. He's been in Inception. He's been in Batman. You know, he's you know, anything Nolan based over the last like 10 years, he's pretty much had some form of influence on, apart from Tenet. I think that symbiotes are very, very, very popular. As much as people don't want to like view it, I guess there's always that big controversy over who Spider-Man's arch nemesis really is. It's Green Goblin. We all know it. But even so, you know, Venom is supposed to be the antithesis of Spider-Man. But then his character arc has become so changed and different and touched so many different points that he is an incredibly popular character. And it sells, and they had a great cast. You know, Woody Harrelson is a great actor. Tom 100%. Hardy is a great actor. Andy Serkis is a great director and actor. So it had all the ingredients. I just think it looks like poop. But that's just me. And apparently I'm in the minority because everyone's going to see it. Yay! But again, you know, I am shocked at this, to be honest with you. I am shocked that it's making a lot of money, because you look at a film like Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad was incredibly well received commercially when it first came out, and it was absolutely slammed by critics. And then the second one, I would argue it's up there for one of my favorite films of the year. And
100%.
it was amazing, and it did nothing at the box office because the first one absolutely ruined its reputation. And this is not the case with Venom, it seems. It's just more of the same. So I do question as well how much of it is people. I wonder if the general public gets confused sometimes. I didn't mean to sound like patronizing when I said that. I just mean like non-nerds in the know, like you and I.
The normies.
The normies, yeah, the base normies. I wonder how many of them get confused at thinking that this might be part of the MCU. And that's why they're going to see it. You know, Sony has a lot to thank Marvel for in that regard, because like they do get a lot of like passed over success. You know, I'll be interested to see how Morbius does when that comes out.
Mobius and Mobius. The living TVA agent.
I'll be interesting to see. He sucks bureaucracy's blood. It'll be interesting to see how that performs and if it's a similar effect as Venom. You know, I do wonder how much of this is MCU spillover into commercial success, especially as there seems to be some big reveal with the MCU at the end of it, apparently. But I'm not gonna, Drac knows. Nobody else knows. Anyway, but that's it. That's the news for this week, ladies and gentlemen. So tips and bits are done. Thank you. I think we're going to move on to our. our main event, aren't we, Zane?
Yes. So this week was episode 8 of What If. Gentlemen, what did you think of said episode? I mean, what an episode to start off with, but yeah, why not? GG, you take the floor. What did you think?
I mean, you did say gentlemen, so it got me very confused. I was like, wait, that's me, isn't it? I'm gonna shock you guys. Are you sitting down for this? I loved this episode. I thought it was fantastic. This for me was probably my favorite episode of What If so far. It was great. It was so good. And I think the reason why it was so good is that the MCU finally did Ultron right. Because like I liked what they did. So my main issue with Age of Ultron, the Avengers film, was the fact that they couldn't obviously let Ultron win, because the idea behind Ultron in the books is every time the Avengers or whoever it is beat him, he goes away, learns from it, and comes back even more powerful. And so there always has to be some crazy way that they defeat. Like in Age of Ultron, the book, they had to go back in time to stop him ever being created in order to stop him from taking over the world. Like that's the level of power that you're talking about with Ultron. And like, whilst in the MCU, in the film, he was obviously quite very powerful, but it kind of felt like he was like a one note, like, okay, yeah, he's just done like that. Like, that's it. He's gone. This was like peak Ultron of like, if he was able to get what he was, to the power levels that he's, supposed to be at, it'll be over. It's game over for everything. Like, that's it. He would just win. And I loved this episode. I thought it was just fantastic. Conceptually wise, like looks wise, like the one thing that I will consistently say with you guys is that the What If animation for this season has been absolutely phenomenal. Like from start to end, no matter what the episode is, even if it's the terrible zombie episode, drag, it looks fantastic. It looks so good. I mean, go back to that one a second, Zane. Go back to that image. Look at that. Look at how good that looks. Like, it just looks fantastic. The fight sequences in it have been amazing. I don't know how I feel in the episode about Hawkeye and Black Widow being the only two. Spoilers, by the way, for the episode. I don't know how I feel about Hawkeye and Black Widow being the only two survivors left at the end of the world. And if they've established that they were it, there was no one else alive. That was it. So I don't know whether, I mean, Drac or Zane, do you want to give a run through of the episode? Because I normally do it, but people have heard enough of my voice.
So Zane, I'll leave that with you.
Well, I mean, in terms of like you say, the pacing and everything, I thought it was really cool. It's interesting that the opening to this was very similar to the What If Ultron comic, where I believe it was Black Widow and Moon Knight in that version. So it's kind
I
of
have not read
interesting.
that.
It's very good. Yeah, it and to an extent, I'd say it might even be better, just because it's not like three Wolverines fighting each other at one point. So yeah, I'd probably say this was a really cool story, and the fact that there's a lot of sort of journeys in terms of going from where they were in New York to going to Siberia, finding like a version of
Zola.
Thank you. It was incredible, and little things as well, like Hawkeye's arm, like his arm's missing, and
Yeah.
it looks like he has like an Ultron bot arm in this.
He does. Yeah. So the idea behind this episode, guys, just to kind of give everyone an indication of what happens, is that so in the what if moment in this is in Avengers: Age of Ultron, the film, they are able to take Vision's body away from Ultron before Ultron implants himself into the Vision's body. Obviously, he's not known as Vision then, but I'm just using it as a shorthand. Whereas in this, the body never gets taken away, and Ultron becomes Vision Ultron, basically the epitome of what Ultron should be, kind of thing, I guess, in the MCU. And he's obviously then able to control the Mind Stone. And with the power of the Mind Stone, he basically just wipes out everyone on Earth. Like he initiates nuclear launch codes, sets off nukes everywhere, creates a nuclear winter, which is interesting considering I wonder if that's because in the books, obviously, in the film, his grand scheme is to create an asteroid basically that would impact the Earth out of Sokovia. And this, he just is like, no, forget it. I'm just going to nuke everyone. Like that's what I'm going to do. I thought that the bit where it gets super, super crazy off the wall, amazing, was when in a little bit early, actually, interestingly, Thanos turns up with 5 of the Infinity Gems, and then Ultron uses the Mind Stone to flay him in half, which I thought was, but yeah, exactly. It just immediately splits him in half with the Mind Stone, and then it gets all 6 of the Infinity Stones, and becomes, an elevated being, I guess, is I can't remember what exactly the Watcher uses as a term. But the long and short of it is that Ultron's mission is to wipe out all organic life because it's the only way to ensure peace. So he then does that to the entire universe with the help of the Infinity Stones, with the exception of Hawkeye and Black Widow, who are still on Earth. And then in wiping out all existence in the universe, he then reaches a new level that he can hear the Watcher, and then breaks through the membrane of realities, is it, or whatever however it's phrased.
Reality, sort of.
Yeah. And goes into the Watcher's realm. Now, this bit I wanted to talk to you about because this was the bit where I was kind of like, look at that animation though. That looks so good. For those of you who are missing it on our live stream right now, check it out on YouTube as well because we'll have the video up later. But man, it looks so good. But what did you guys think? Because they've established, right? Here's where I thought that the difficulties of all this physics, science in this world exists, right? In Loki, they've established that when an Infinity Stone is not in its own reality, in its own universe, it is inert. It does not work anymore. They are essentially paperweights, as Loki demonstrated. Now, Ultron leaves his universe. He leaves his universe and goes into this Watcher realm. Why do the Infinity Stones still work?
I've seen a correction on this.
Okay.
So there's a content creator called Straw Hat Goofy. He's absolutely fantastic. It's worth checking out. But in one of his videos, he explains that they don't work in the TVA because TVA is outside of time and space and everything else.
Okay.
Where the gems, they're not in the TVA. So right, they should in brackets work. But yeah, that's his theory, at least anyway. Because again, the whole purpose of the TVA, it's outside time. You don't age. You don't.
Yeah.
And it just kind of acts as a counter against the Infinity Stones as such.
Drac, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, lots. It was a great episode, wasn't it? It was fantastic. In regards to the Infinity Stones specifically, the thing that I saw was a lot more mundane of an answer, where I don't remember who it was, but it was someone who worked on the show, one of the writers, who was basically like, "Yep, that was an omission," but like, you know, on my part, like, creative license, basically.
Right, okay.
With regards to that, and they just kind of like missed that thing about them not working outside the universe. However, I think we can all give them a fairly solid break there, because, you know, not to go into full keyboard warrior, but at the end of the day, outside of the TVA and that exact point that you just mentioned, it's never actually been explicitly said that they don't work outside of their home dimension in the MCU. That is a comic book concept that is, you know, kind of that works that way.
I don't. It's not necessarily that they. I guess it's the rules, because they've already established that they do work outside of their home dimension, because Doctor Strange takes the time stone to Dormammu's realm, and it works there. So it's not that. It's just that the Watcher. I feel like the Watcher's realm is like he can see everything. He's got the same kind of TVA omnipotence, in the sense of like he can see everything and be anywhere at once, kind of thing. And so I just thought it was a bit weird that like outside of that it would work. But yeah, I mean, if it's just a kind of separate dimension where he sees everything, then that makes the most sense. But yeah,
there's certainly a lot of wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff kind of going on here.
Yeah.
But
don't even start on Doctor Who. I was excited about Doctor Who news this week. Don't even get me started on that.
For the purposes of the comic book watchers, there's kind of like a watcher assigned to like major planets. You know what I mean? So the watcher watches Earth and all variations of Earth. He's not in charge of every single Uatu. He's not in charge of every single universe and is watching all the universes. He's watching the variations of Earth. So in theory, there would also be like one for Xandar, you know, one for Vormir, or something along those lines, you know, because
he's got a boring job.
The idea was
watching Vormir.
I think this is canon. I don't know if it is still. I definitely read this in a comic book some time ago, but there was a thing with their race, like at their infancy, that they didn't stop Galactus being born at the beginning of the start of that universe, and as a result, they kind of cursed themselves to watch and not intervene. So that's the idea of it, which is why there's now like several of them. But it seems to me like, based on his comments on, you know, the universe being destroyed, or that particular like galaxy or whatever, that he's almost in charge of like that universe. You know what I mean? Like not even the 616 universe, but the whole thing is wicked. I love like Vision's animation. Like every time I see him in an episode, I just think like the lines, the detail, the coloring, like everything looks absolutely phenomenal. So I'm really psyched to see him as a version of Ultron combined. And I just really enjoyed everything about this, I have to say.
Have we got an image, Zane? Have we got an image of Uatu in his battle armor? Because there's obviously the cloak that he wears, but there's also the battle armor that he kind of goes into in order to fight Ultron. So basically, once Ultron breaks into his home dimension, there we go. That'll do. Once he breaks into his home dimension, he goes up against Uatu to obviously kill him. And it's interesting how powerful. I guess we get a glimpse of how powerful the Watchers actually are, because he does go toe to toe with Ultron with all 6 Infinity Stones, which is like,
in true anime fashion as well.
Yeah, completely. But I'm just going to add in a comment. So obviously I talk about her quite frequently, but my wife is not a nerd. She is not one of our kind in that regard whatsoever. However, she sits and grins and bears what if with me, because she's an angel and I love her. And upon Uatu changing into that armor, she saw it for the first time, looked at me and went, "The baby's got C-3PO armor?"
Wow.
And I absolutely cried laughing. So there you go. Yes, it was a very weirdly inspired armor. I guess it's like battle armor from their species. I assume it's kind of like they've got the robes, and then when they want to get down to action, they change into the 3PO armor. So that's what I'm going to refer to it as from now on in.
Fantastic.
But yeah, the end of the episode was obviously setting us up for the big finale for next week, wasn't it? With Ultron going up against presumably the Guardians of the Avengers galaxies.
It's a very quick turnaround, it feels, from the sort of separate build up to everyone's a team now. So it'll be interesting to see if they want to keep doing what if episodes based off new characters or other movies in the second season, but also potentially have this multiversal Avengers team maybe going around. I'm also I don't know if they'll play it this way or not, but it sounds to me like they erased the Gamora episode. They had to bounce an episode to season 2, and yet how are they going to do that in the finale? There was a missing spot there. I don't know who they're going to edit in. That's going to be very interesting. But are they going to go straight to is it going to be Doctor Strange or Evil Strange and Uatu going straight into the Party Thor universe? Because that's where we last saw Ultron kind of coming through.
I mean, I will say this. I have said to you a lot during the series, they haven't really established how the whole arcing of the series is going to work. I think I mentioned that when we talked about possibly the zombies episode or something like that, because we knew that Super Ultron was coming. Uber Ultron was coming. We knew he was coming, but we didn't really know how it was all going to fit together. Mm-hmm. We're assuming that this is all going to be wrapped up in the next episode. It may go into season 2. This may be a 2-season arc that Ultron will win. He will start to crush dimensions. And then the only way out of it is to get everyone together in season 2. Because I believe, I can't remember where I read it or who I heard it from, but I did believe that there was going to be a lot of these endings that we're seeing where it's kind of cliffhanger footnote endings in the what ifs. I did read something that we're going to see kind of more of them in season 2, as if the other side of it. So, the things with Ego, where Ego turns up and sees Quill. We're going to see what happens with that and what is the result of that, and other things like that. So, the zombies universe, how that universe affects what's going on with Ultron and stuff like that. So, I would be absolutely shocked and maybe a little bit disappointed, to be perfectly honest with you, if they do wrap this up in the next week's episode. I would like them to leave it as a cliffhanger and build next season. This one's done a good job of establishing what if is, and now that people know what if is, you don't have to spend so much time on the pretense of it, and you can actually go into this big bad arc. I'd be very interested to see if they get Scarlett Johansson back for season 2 as well now that she's settled her lawsuit with Disney, because Black Widow has been featured a lot in this season, a lot, and the voice actor has been amazing for it. But I don't know. I don't know. Thoughts, lads?
I really like Lake Bell as Black Widow. I think she's done an incredible job to kind of imitate that Scarlett Johansson voice. It's been a real weird setup in terms of an arch villain as well, because they've introduced Ultron so late in the game in terms of not introducing him very early on in the season. We're right at the tail end, and it's only now we get the backstory of Ultron and such, and how he became infinite sort of gauntlet type Ultron. So really interesting. Also really interesting that they didn't get is it James Spader?
Yes. I was sad they didn't get James Spader back.
Yeah.
Creepy James Spader.
But again, Ross, I can't pronounce
Marquand.
his name. Marquand. An amazing, I thought he did a decent enough job. I don't think he sounded exactly like James Spader, but I thought it was decent enough. And knowing that he did what's his name, Red Skull in Infinity War is amazing.
I want him to be brought into live action as Red Skull again. I think he's fantastic as Red Skull, and as much as I love Hugo Weaving, and I do love Hugo Weaving, he didn't particularly enjoy his experience in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Ross Marquand was perfect in Infinity War. He was great. I honestly could barely tell the difference between him and Hugo Weaving. Bring him in as a main villain. Red Skull needs his due, man, in the MCU. He really does. Red Skull is a lot more of a three-dimensional villain than he was portrayed in the MCU. And now that they've established variants, he would be a perfect variant for Red Skull, an absolutely perfect variant for him. That's amazing, that shot where he eats an entire universe.
Yeah, such a Galactus callback, wasn't it?
Isn't it? Especially with the sort of like bands at the side, like huge.
The helmet,
things there. My favorite shot of this, actually, one of, but I think it's up there, is the death of Hawkeye. And as he fell from the kind of girders, the same way almost that, like, where Iron Man and Bucky and Cap were having their fight to the death, like, at that time, like the shot where it's almost like that angelic shot with all the yellow lighting, like into all the drones and everything underneath. I thought that was absolutely fantastic shot, and I also just really liked his arc as well. The loss that he went through, and he was just, I like the line, "I'm tired of fighting. Like, I don't want to fight anymore." Like, I really enjoyed that dialogue as well. So that was fantastic.
I did like the next thing you've got, where Black Widow, no matter when it is or what's happening, she can't help but pose.
Hero.
Just one more thought on this: the reality of Arnim Zola AI being able to actually stop Ultron.
Yeah, probably not. Right? Like, very unlikely.
I don't think so. I mean, like, Ultron is the most advanced, artificial intelligence in reality. I don't think Arnim Zola could go up against that personally, but there you go. Go on.
It's cool to think that they kind of mentioned this copy of him in Siberia as well. So it's like, okay, so that's potentially true of the main Marvel timeline. Like that just gives them a little bit of wiggle room to bring Toby Jones, thank you, back, like, in that role if they really need him. But I hope it's not like as a little kind of Deus Ex Machina kind of thing that it didn't even work. Like, I was actually expecting them, when they go on about putting him into a drone, I thought they were going to go full Zola comic book then for a second, just literally have him be like a camera with the face like in a screen. And I know he already kind of is that anyway, crying body, but I know that's like his setup anyway, but I thought they're going to do this, you know what I mean?
I really want them to do that. I really do. I'm one of the people who really wants that. I want, like, Robot Zola. Like, I really do. I think it'd look fantastic on screen. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. Don't forget, we've got Zemo running around now, established in the universe. There's nothing to say that Hydra won't be back again in some form. I thought this episode was great. I loved it. I'm glad they're bringing back evil inverted commas, evil Doctor Strange at the end of the episode. There it is. There's the 3PO armor. Look at that. It looks fantastic.
That looks like Loki falling into the void at the end of the first Thor as well for me.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. Poor little Jeffrey Wright baby.
Poor
little baby. But yes, anyway, I think we're trepid. Well, from my point of view, I'm trepidatious but excited to see the finale next week, and then that'll be pretty much it for Marvel until until next month when Eternals comes out.
I really enjoyed this. I felt like the budget was probably saved for these last two episodes and the Doctor Strange one. It felt like everything hit the wall on this. So yeah, it was really cool. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. Let me just double check my notes quickly. I think Uatu's interactions, not interactions as such, but his conversations and talking to himself was amazing. Like, where he's doing the monologue about Ultron's destroying everything, and then then Ultron says, "I can hear you," and then he's like, "What the hell?" Like,
I will say this: that actually, okay. So now that you've brought that up, I wasn't going to talk about that, but you've brought it up, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit.
Here we are.
That was one of the bits that did annoy me quite a lot about the episode. Yeah, because it was like it was almost that. Have you ever seen that episode of The Family Guy where Randy Newman is trying to come up with songs, and like Brian is visiting him, and he's next to an apple tree, and he just starts singing exactly what Brian's doing, like picking up an apple, eating the apple, and then Brian's just looking at him, and then he's just like, look at me, putting the apple down. And that's exactly what it felt like to me, where it's just like, Iwatu, shut the hell up. What's wrong with you?
Brother Iwatu.
It's like Ultron realized that he could hear people. Yeah, you shut the F up. What's wrong with you? That was slightly annoying to me, but that's a very minor. It's a very, very minor thing. Interesting choice of weapon for Ultron as well. Looking at it there, the old spear. Yeah, the old lance. Yeah, like he's about to do some jousting.
I feel like I recognize that from somewhere, but I can't quite place it. So if anyone does, please let us know.
Yeah. Anyway, any more thoughts on What If episode 8?
Loved it. Hope the finale lives up to expectations.
Zane, what were you going to say?
My last thought really was I like the fight with Captain Marvel, where he just kind of like did nothing and then just explodes Xandar from its core.
Yeah.
Which just knocked out a load of other planets as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. They have kind of been like not depowering her, but like showing that Captain Marvel cannot beat certain people in the universe. Because when she first came into it, it was like Captain Marvel's the most indestructible person in the entire universe. Nobody can beat her. Blah 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 blah. But like they've been through 2 episodes now where she can't stop Thor really, and she can't stop Ultron. So it's interesting. They're trying to scale her back a bit, I think, because that was one of the problems I had with Captain Marvel when she first came in, was that she was way too OP, and they basically had to Professor X her in Endgame and get her out of it because she's so powerful that you can't have her in it because it would just stop everything basically.
It's the same with Vision though in the Mind Stone, and just by sheer virtue of like unzipping Thanos in this, that was the only bit that kind of I was like, he's still got 5 Infinity Stones. I don't think he'd just literally be.
There you go, perfect shot of it.
Very quickly.
I think I'm more forgiving of that in the sense of it happens very quickly, and Ultron and Thanos is in peak like arrogance mode where he's like, I've got glorious purpose as well, and I have to balance out the universe, blah 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 blah. Whereas Ultron's just like, now forget that. Beep, there you go, you're dead. I'm more in line with that than I am with the Iwatu just narrating exactly what Ultron's thinking. Ultron wanted a beverage. He turned around. He took a sip. He heard a voice. Whose voice was that? It's my voice. Maybe I should stop talking. I'm not going to stop talking though. Hey, Ultron. So yeah. Anyway, great episode. Looking forward to episode 9. I don't think Undisputed definitely on our rating system. Yes, it's Undisputed. Yeah. I don't think this arc is going to end next episode though. I really do think it's going to go into season 2, but we shall see. We shall see, Zane.
Love the idea of another, just the fact that this is all canon. You know what I mean? It's nice to think you're kind of like watching the MCU on like any other given film, but then in the background there's an Ultron with Infinity Stones like zipping around the multiverse. All this erroneous stuff happening. Love that idea.
Exactly.
So yeah, let's go for it.
Cool.
All right.
Cool. Zane, do you want to do the outro, Zane, or do you want me to do it?
That's no problem.
It never ends.
I was going to say, you sucked us into an infinite vortex. The episode was good, wasn't it? Yeah, it was good. It was good. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, what do you think, Drax? Yeah, it was good. It was good.
It's good. I enjoyed it. Well, we'd love to know your thoughts. Make sure to drop a comment down below, as we would love to know what you thought of this fantastic episode 8 of What If. I don't know why I said it like that. I don't know why you said it all in my head, but I just
you had
I owned it. As always, you can find us on all the social medias, as well as numerous platforms. GG, I know you have some things going on down at Twitch.
That sounded weird. Yes, I do have some things going on down at my Twitch. Yes, thanks. Yeah, no kidding. They are now. Yes, you can find me at twitch.tv/gentlemanlygamer. We are doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Currently going through Alien Isolation on nightmare mode because I'm a sadist.
Nice.
It's not nice. It's an absolute nightmare, Zane. And you can also get me on the gram, on the Instagram at Gentleman the Gamer. Come and complain at me or do whatever you want. Really, I don't know. I don't know.
I might do that later. Actually.
I'm so old now. I don't know what social media is anymore. I don't even know what a TikTok is. I have to get told by Zane. Drac, where can they find you? Nowhere. Good. Moving on.
They can find me between this rack of clothes, underneath this halo, and this chest of drawers. So come visit me.
That is not a halo. That is a burning sun about to impact on you. Zane, I know that you've got the socials all up in your grill. Where can they find you?
At senpai_Zane_. Yeah, it's a lie, but it's actually a handle. So you can find me there on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you like. Again, all relevant links will be in the description down below. As always, don't forget Undisputed Anime. So check out that's just a YouTube channel and podcast platform on your favorite podcast platform as well.
Nice.
Great.
Delightful. Thank you so much for having me on again, gents.
Oh, I mean, if we must.
All right. Just gonna go.
Thanks very much, you guys. Have a good week. We'll see you next week. Bye.
See you next week.
Bye. Bye.